Welcome to the Vertical Sky Journal, the podcast that brings you everything you could ever want to know about Kilimanjaro. The climbing and the fitness, altitude and nutrition, the environment, the wildlife, and the people at the heart of the mountain. Today, we tackle the question almost everyone asks first. How much does it really cost to climb Kilimanjaro? And why the cheapest climb on the table might be the most expensive mistake you could make.
It is genuinely the most crucial question you can ask before booking.
It really is. And, well, our mission for this deep dive is to essentially pull back the curtain on that glossy brochure price tag. We want to examine the raw numbers to reveal the genuine costs underlying an expedition.
Exactly, because what you see online is rarely the whole story.
Quite. We will uncover exactly why a bargain price serves as a massive red flag. And crucially, we will place a firm spotlight on the vital human element. I mean, the mountain crew are the individuals who make this entire endeavor possible in the first place.
Yes, understanding their role is absolutely fundamental to understanding the cost.
So let us dive straight in. Where do we even start with the numbers?
Well, we must begin by establishing the honest baseline. A good, safe, well-run Kilimanjaro climb genuinely costs somewhere between $2,500 and $6,000 US per person.
That is quite a broad range.
It is, yes. But within that spectrum, most reputable 7- and 8-day climbs land in the $3,000 to $5,000 range. That is the realistic sweet spot.
But you will inevitably see trips advertised for far less than that, won't you?
Oh, constantly. Occasionally, you might even spot an offer sitting under $2,000. And, well, that is exactly the point where any prospective climber needs to pay very close attention to the mechanics of mountain pricing.
Because it simply does not add up.
No, it does not. Not ethically and certainly not safely.
I always like to compare the foundation of this pricing structure to the unchangeable tax on a commercial flight ticket.
Ah, that is a brilliant way to look at it.
Right, because when you purchase an airline ticket, the government taxes and airport fees remain identical whether you fly in economy or first class.
Yeah.
You simply cannot shop around for a cheaper tax.
Precisely.
And I assume that exact principle applies to Kilimanjaro.
It translates perfectly to the mountain, yes. You see, the single biggest portion of the price for any Kilimanjaro climb is not operator profit. It is not even the guides.
Wait, really? What is it then?
The largest segment actually consists of the national park fees.
Ah, right. The fees paid straight to the authorities.
Exactly. The Tanzanian authorities charge conservation fees, camping or hut fees, rescue fees, and VAT for every single day you remain on the mountain.
And how much does all of that actually amount to?
Well, these fees alone constitute about a third of the total cost of the climb. That often amounts to $1,000 US or more per climber.
Just in park fees alone?
Just the fees.
Yeah.
And crucially, every single operator pays exactly the same park fees. They are completely fixed. They are entirely non-negotiable.
So let me play devil's advocate for a moment here.
Go.
If I see an internet deal offering a complete climb for, say, $1,500, could that not simply be a highly efficient local outfitter?
It is a tempting thought, I will admit.
I mean, perhaps they have just cut out the glossy Western marketing budgets and the expensive London office rents to pass the savings on to the climber. Are we certain a low price automatically indicates corner cutting?
I understand why people think that, but the maths simply do not allow for it. Let us examine the ledger for a second.
Right. Let us run the numbers.
If you hand over $1,500 and the Tanzanian government immediately takes $1,000 for your park fees, that leaves exactly $500.
Which does not sound like a lot for a week on a mountain.
It is not. Out of that remaining $500, the operator must pay for your food for an entire week. They must provide tents, transport to the gate, and wages for a crew of perhaps 4 to 6 people entirely dedicated to your climb.
4 to 6 people, just for one climber.
Yes, quite often. So it is mathematically impossible to cover those basic expenses on $500 without either exploiting the crew or severely compromising your safety.
If you follow that logic, it paints a deeply worrying picture.
It really does.
If every operator pays the exact same park fee, anyone offering a climb significantly below the going rate must be making brutal cuts elsewhere. They're essentially cutting into flesh and bone.
Precisely. Because the remainder of the price is required to cover your mountain crew and everything they do. That includes the guides, the porters, and the cooks.
And all of their logistical needs as well, I imagine.
Exactly. It covers their wages, their food, and their equipment. It also pays for your meals, your transfers, and obviously the operating company's own running costs.
So when the price drops,
When a price drops well below the established going rate, the cuts are always made to the people, and that is the part you cannot easily verify from a glossy brochure.
Right, because the brochure just shows a smiling climber at the summit. It does not show the porter's paycheck. Let us examine the variables that legitimately alter the price then. Within that genuine $2,500 to $6,000 range, if an operator is treating their crew properly, what factors actually dictate the final number on the invoice?
Well, the primary variables are the route chosen and the number of days spent on the mountain.
Oh, of course. Time is money.
Quite. Longer routes, such as an 8-day Lemosho climb, will naturally cost more. You are paying for extra days of food, extra wages, and obviously those non-negotiable daily park fees.
But there is a massive benefit to those longer routes, isn't there?
A huge benefit. Longer routes carry far higher summit success rates. Your body simply requires time to acclimatize to the extreme elevation.
Right, whereas the shorter routes are a bit of a gamble.
They are. Conversely, shorter routes like a 5- or 6-day Marangu climb are cheaper, but the summit success rate is drastically lower, and the risk of altitude sickness is significantly higher.
So paying for an extra day or two on the mountain effectively functions as acclimatization insurance.
That is a fantastic way to phrase it, yes.
You are essentially buying time for your physiology to adapt. It just seems entirely counterintuitive to spend thousands of dollars on flights and gear only to rush the final ascent and fail simply because you tried to save a few $100s on an extra day.
That is an excellent way to frame it, actually. At extreme altitudes, the partial pressure of oxygen drops significantly.
And the body just panics, doesn't it?
Well, your body needs time to produce more red blood cells to carry what little oxygen is available in the air. A 5-day route forces the body to adapt much faster than human physiology generally allows.
So you are basically setting yourself up for failure.
Quite often, yes, you are entirely correct. Buying that extra day is often the absolute most vital investment of the entire expedition.
Now, beyond the days on the mountain, I imagine group dynamics play a significant role in the cost structure, too.
Oh, absolutely they do. Joining a shared group climb is naturally more affordable because fixed costs, such as transport and communal equipment, are distributed among multiple people.
Whereas a private climb is purely on your own shoulders.
Exactly. A private or fully tailored climb costs more due to the exclusivity. And then, well, the time of year plays a major role as well.
The peak seasons, I suppose.
Yes. The popular dry seasons, spanning from January to March and June to October, are much busier. Operators can charge a premium then.
And the off-season.
The quieter, wetter months can be cheaper, but that presents an obvious trade-off regarding the weather. You will be dealing with a lot of rain.
Right. We must also discuss the physical infrastructure and the personnel on the mountain.
Yeah.
How do these elements factor into legitimate pricing?
Well, they essentially define the level of care you receive. Proper guide-to-climber ratios are vital.
What does a proper ratio actually look like?
You want one guide for every 2 climbers, not one guide for 6 climbers.
Wow, 1 to 6 sounds incredibly dangerous.
It is. Furthermore, legitimate costs include bottled oxygen, pulse oximeters, high-calorie food specifically designed for altitude, quality 4-season tents, and, most importantly, fairly paid crews.
Maintaining that level of infrastructure must be incredibly expensive.
It really is. Providing fresh, nutrient-dense food at 15,000 feet requires more porters and much better logistical planning than simply serving thin soup and plain rice.
That makes perfect sense. And if those physical infrastructures are non-negotiable for safety, it makes you view those bargain internet deals in a much, much darker light.
It does, doesn't it?
I mean, to hit a rock-bottom price, they are not just finding a slightly cheaper brand of tent, they are actively removing the safety nets.
Yes, bargain websites hide a very harsh truth. On Kilimanjaro, a rock-bottom price is a severe red flag. We must always remember those fixed park fees.
Because they never change.
Exactly. When an operator advertises a climb hundreds of dollars below everyone else, the money comes from the things you cannot easily observe from afar.
Such as?
They slash porter wages, which are frequently too low to begin with. They pile excessively heavy loads onto too few porters just to reduce the overall head count.
That is awful.
It is. And they provide older, leaking tents and insufficient food for their staff.
It is deeply unsettling to consider. I mean, you might be struggling just to put one foot in front of the other while carrying a very light day pack.
Which is hard enough at that altitude.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, the individual carrying your heavy duffel bag, your sleeping bag, and your tent is working on a severe calorie deficit, wearing entirely inadequate clothing simply because you sought out a discount.
That is the grim reality of it.
When you celebrate an unbelievable deal, you really must ask yourself a difficult question. Whose wages or safety gear actually paid for that discount?
And the answer is almost always the porters. We must speak about this with profound warmth and respect for these individuals.
Because they are the backbone of the entire industry.
They are. The mountain has a very uncomfortable history of porters being underpaid, overloaded, and sent up into freezing conditions in nothing but jeans and thin jackets.
Which is practically a death sentence at 15,000 feet.
Yes, and that situation drastically worsens at the bottom of the market. The lower the price, the more likely it is that someone carrying your bag is actively suffering just to save you a few $100s.
And that ethical compromise translates directly into a practical danger for the climber as well, doesn't it?
Yeah,
If an operator cuts corners on the crew, they are inevitably cutting corners on the client's safety.
absolutely. Employing fewer guides means the ratio shifts dangerously. If one guide is managing 6 climbers, they simply cannot monitor everyone's physical state effectively.
They would miss the subtle signs.
Exactly. And if an operator eliminates vital safety equipment to save money, they will lack oxygen tanks and pulse oximeters.
Which are essential for diagnosing altitude sickness.
Quite. The early signs of altitude sickness, such as high-altitude pulmonary edema or cerebral edema, are incredibly subtle. Without proper monitoring equipment and attentive guides, those signs get missed.
With catastrophic results.
Sadly, yes. It is no coincidence that the cheapest climbs tend to have the lowest summit success and the absolute worst safety records.
This reality perfectly illustrates the core ethos of Vertical Sky. They maintain incredibly strict standards regarding their crew.
They do, and it is a model others should follow.
I mean, they pay above the recognized fair pay standards. They strictly cap the weight any single porter carries.
Which is vital for the porter's long-term health.
Exactly. They ensure their people are properly kitted out for freezing temperatures and well-fed throughout the entire expedition. Furthermore, they mandate the presence of sufficient guides, emergency oxygen, and comprehensive medical equipment.
And they do all of this knowing the financial implications.
Right. They recognize that maintaining this standard means they will never be the cheapest option on the market.
But they believe that is the entire point. You simply cannot run an ethical, safe expedition on a shoestring budget. The numbers simply do not permit it.
It is mathematically impossible.
Exactly. If you want a crew that is healthy, motivated, and fully capable of keeping you safe, you must properly fund that environment.
Let us widen the lens for a moment. We need to clarify the distinction between paying for a climb and paying for the entire trip.
That is a very important distinction to make.
Because the headline brochure price is never the final driveway-to-driveway cost, is it? What hidden extras must a climber budget for to avoid unexpected financial pressure?
Well, the headline climb price typically covers the park fees, the guides and crew, the food, the tents, and the transfers between your local hotel and the mountain gate.
But that is just the time in Tanzania itself.
Exactly. Climbers must build several substantial budgets into their overall plan. International flights to Kilimanjaro International Airport represent a significant outlay right off the bat.
And the paperwork.
Yes, you must account for your entry visa. You will also need to budget for hotel accommodation for the nights immediately before and after your trek.
Gear and clothing present another major variable, surely. I mean, a proper minus 20 degrees Celsius sleeping bag, insulated jackets, and high-quality trekking boots are not cheap items.
They certainly are not.
Does it make more financial sense to buy these items or to hire them?
Well, it depends entirely on your future plans. If you are a regular mountaineer, purchasing high-quality gear is a solid investment.
But if you are just doing this once,
If Kilimanjaro is a once-in-a-lifetime challenge, hiring gear locally from a reputable operator is far, far more sensible.
I can imagine buying everything adds up quickly.
Oh, buying a full suite of extreme weather clothing can easily add $1,000 to your budget. Hiring allows you access to expedition-grade equipment for a mere fraction of that cost.
No, I imagine insurance is an area where people frequently try to cut corners. They probably assume their standard holiday coverage will suffice.
That is a very common and very dangerous misconception.
Standard holiday insurance from the local post office likely becomes entirely void the moment you step past 3,000 meters.
You are entirely correct. Standard travel insurance rarely covers activities above 3,000 meters. And remember, Kilimanjaro reaches nearly 6,000 meters.
That is a massive difference.
Yeah. It is. High-altitude travel insurance that explicitly covers helicopter evacuation is absolutely non-negotiable.
Why is the helicopter coverage so vital?
Because if you develop severe altitude sickness, descending quickly is the only real cure. Sometimes a climber simply cannot walk down.
Right, they're physically incapacitated.
Exactly. And a helicopter evacuation at 15,000 feet is a highly specialized, incredibly expensive operation. You must have specific coverage for high-altitude trekking and aerial extraction.
And finally, let us talk about the culture of tipping. In many Western cultures, tipping is viewed as a nice bonus for exceptional service.
Yes, a little extra on top.
But on Kilimanjaro, it seems tipping functions much more as a structural pillar of the local economy. How should a climber approach gratuities?
Well, tipping is completely expected on Kilimanjaro. It forms a genuinely important, deeply meaningful part of how the crew makes their living.
It is not just an afterthought.
No, it is not an afterthought at all. The industry standard recommends that climbers budget roughly $200 to $400 per person for the whole team.
And how is that managed on the mountain?
This amount is gathered at the end of the climb and distributed transparently among guides, porters, and cooks. It is a vital component of the overall cost and really must be factored into your initial budget from day one.
So when we gather all these threads together, the financial reality of Kilimanjaro is complex, but actually highly logical.
It is very logical once you break it down.
You have the immovable park fees forming the bedrock. You have the crew, wages, and safety infrastructure dictating the ethical and practical viability of the climb. And finally, you have the logistical periphery, from flights to insurance.
The core message here is that the right question is never about finding the lowest price.
What is the right question then?
The correct questions are, what am I actually getting, and who is paying the difference if the price is suspiciously cheap?
Which usually means the porters are paying it.
Exactly. You must pay for enough days on the mountain to allow your body to adapt. You must pay for highly trained guides and genuine safety equipment.
And you must pay for a crew who are properly clothed, fed, and compensated.
Yes.
Doing so protects three vital things simultaneously, really. It protects your chances of successfully standing on the roof of Africa. It protects your physical safety during the journey there and back.
And the third?
Crucially, it protects your conscience regarding the people who physically carried your ambitions up the mountain.
That is beautifully put. On Kilimanjaro, the right price is rarely the lowest one. But when you factor in the safety, the success rate, and the ethical treatment of the local workforce, the right price is almost always worth it.
Adventure travel often focuses heavily on how a harsh, challenging environment might change the traveler. We seek out these mountains to test our limits and return transformed. Perhaps the ultimate measure of a successful climb is ensuring the traveler does not leave a harsh, damaging mark on the people who call that mountain home.